the last 4 episodes, he didn't even talk a single word. I just watched it all 2 nights ago. I was like, they just showed me, and he's like.
And then when I even talk in the show, they cut me off too. The one dentist guy cuts me off. I'm like, huh? Okay, yeah. That's how they want to portray us. I mean, it's weird.
And it's like you raise your hand to talk, right? In the studio, and it's like we gotta move on. So, and everybody wants to talk, and that's great. The families have great insights, you know. But I noticed the Asians don't really get to talk.
Sky passed a lot of those tests, and he kind of just like swept that under the rug. Yeah. Like he passed with flying colors. Like,
oh yeah,
isn't that supposed to be an indication that you did the challenge right?
And of course, I confronted the helicopter parent right in the studio. I was like, "What do you mean I'm not listening to my son?" I said, What do you mean? Give me an example." And she shut up. And of course, that's not in the show, right? That's not in the show.
Kiki, Chuck, thanks for coming onto the show. You are the Super Ng family from the ABC show, The Parent Test. You're proud parents raising your son Sky using a negotiation-style parenting. That's the opposite of your own experiences with strict parents. But now that we've seen the season finale and you've had a chance to watch some of the episodes and to check out people's responses on social media, what has been your experience both on and off the show?
Well, off the show, I think that you know, we're getting some type of feedback from, you know, all around the world. Even when we get jogging, some random people was like, "Hey, you're from Parent Test," take a picture of us. I'm like, okay, it's kind of out there.
And they're nice. They're good feedback, and they're like, "Oh, we wish there's an audience for. We love you guys. Keep up the good work, you know," and that's encouraging. But on the show, when we watched it, it's like horrifying because I feel like we're misrepresented in so many ways, and there were so many sweet moments of the family that wasn't shown, and we couldn't really say everything that we wanted to, or it was cut off, or it wasn't shown, you know?
Yeah.
And that's a missed opportunity, I really think. But we enjoyed the show, you know. At first, we just thought it was all about Sky. So we were like, oh, yeah, our only child, Sky, you know, we love him. Like, of course, I'm a comedian, so I'm like, he's a baby comedian. I'm like, he'll be fun. And even during the casting, he was telling jokes to the casting director, and we had so much fun. We're like, okay, this sounds like a fun thing. Modern parents just hanging out and having dialogue, doing challenges. And I was like, okay, that sounds fun. And we did that.
Yeah.
We got to, he had to take 2 weeks off work. So we got to spend a lot of time together.
That was the really good thing internally. It made me more of a family man. maybe realize, you know, there's a different type of relationship I can have with my wife.
Just more communication, right? Because you are a family man, more of a family man. He's like, what are you
in and out, you know, always mind is there. My mind, my body's here, but my mind is not here. That's most of the time when I'm, you know,
working. So actually this was nice, especially during the challenge was fun. Some of the challenges were like, so not age appropriate, you know, like the backseat driver map. I don't even know how to read a map. He was 6, you know, he's 7 now, and it's huge difference, right? Like 6 and 7, even compared to a lot of the kids on the show, and they have siblings helping them. The instruction is hands off. See how hands off you can be, backseat driver and the cooking challenge. So it's like, we want to do well. So the objective is to be hands off, lose control of your child. So we're like, okay, we'll do our best, but he's still 6. So the car is like, it's your car.
Yeah,
it's the production car.
Yeah, they're like, they just threw it out of nowhere. Like, hey, we're gonna use your car and we're gonna drive it around. And I was like, what? Huh?
And right there, it's literally like, oh, we're gonna text you. And like, huh? Oh,
it's like Pasadena traffic time too. That doesn't make sense. I don't know if this is a good idea, but they just like threw it at us.
And we're up for it because we're like, okay, we signed up. We family time challenge. Okay, we can come as a team and do this together. Even though I can't go in the back seat to help him even look at the map. I'm not even supposed to touch the map. There's a scene where he said, "Give the map to me, buddy. I'll fold it for you so you can see." I was even like, I don't think you're supposed to do that, see, right? Because we were trying to follow the rules. Such good Asians. Just following the rules. And my son was so hungry too. You know, we're filming what eight
filming
hour days, and the challenge go to the store, right? We find out going to the store. I'm like, honey, you hungry? I know. I'm sorry. There was before that he was like almost want to eat his shirt. They cut all that footage out. He was so hungry, even though we fed him in the morning. And I was like, what do you want? He's like, I want chocolate milk. So to motivate him at that point, at 6-year-old, he doesn't care about that map. I can't go back there. He's driving in traffic. I'm just like, honey, remember, we're getting that chocolate milk. There's the goal. I'm not trying to negotiate at that point. The negotiation is already set in place. And the whole show never really showed us negotiating because
they barely show us talking.
Communicating.
And then when I even talk in the show, they cut me off too. The one dentist guy cuts me off. I'm like, huh? All right. That's how they want to portray us. I mean, it's weird.
And it's like you raise your hand to talk, right? In the studio, and it's like we gotta move on. So, and everybody wants to talk, and that's great. The families have great insights, you know. But I noticed the Asians don't really get to talk much, or it's like the Asian talking at the Asians. You know, anything good I said about the intensive and the child-led, it's not there anymore. Or, you know, even with the other families. But I mean, the last 4 episodes, he didn't even talk a single word. I just watched it all 2 nights ago. I was like, they just showed me, and he's like, he's thinking and that's what we thought we signed up for, you know, to just respect and learn. We're not there to judge you and critically examine how great you are. And those snippets, I don't even know them before that. It was the week of like, how can I just be like, well, you're not listening, and you're passively aggressively not paying attention to your child's needs, like some people say about us. And of course, I confronted the helicopter parent right in the studio. I was like, what do you mean I'm not listening to my son? I said, what do you mean? Give me an example. And she shut up. And of course, that's not in the show, right? That's not in the show. And then they interview me later, like, so what did you think about the helicopter, what they say about you not listening? I'm like, I'm offended because we do listen. And obviously we do, because Opposites Day, where they cut short the challenge, and suddenly it wasn't even feedback time. It became the Williams family. I'm like, huh? What is happening? And then it became him, something totally different. You know, we love all the families. We respect them. We don't know them well enough to like critically criticize and judge what's going on. We just look from what we saw in the studio. And I feel like everybody used different. And at the end of the day, we all use some strictness, some high achievement, some negotiating, you know, and I think the show just had to do what they got to do, but still it's not fair to the families getting misrepresented, right? Some of the families get a lot of chance to explain because it's hard, you know, to raise a Black child, or it's also hard to raise an Asian child. What about Asian hate? We talked about it on the show. We mentioned it. He talked about getting bullied. The last episode was about bully. He talked about getting bullied. They're talking about hitting back and stuff. He talked about a story where you talk, honey. I get too excited.
No, I told a little story where
you didn't lift a finger.
I didn't lift a finger, but I was going to get my butt kicked by some gangster in high school. Some story, anyways. But I didn't lift a finger, and somehow, you know, that wasn't
good enough to get in, and people were laughing. It turned out to be a pretty funny story, but maybe it was too much for the show. They wouldn't even let him, which is not fine, because you did talk, and if anything, they could have showed you, because 4 episodes, you just sat there like an extra, and that's what's made me livid. I mean, he is cool, he's chill, he doesn't really care. He's like, he was trying not to fall asleep, so you started taking notes. And you were like, every time, and then he gets frustrated. He's like, you tell me raise hand. I'm like, no, you just gotta talk, because that's what people do. They just, and then he tried, and then it's like, we gotta move on.
Yeah, it was pretty much like that.
It was pretty much like that, and no shade to any of the families, because they're just excited. Some of them are used to talking too, right? That podcast, they're on YouTube, they have their opinions, and you know, as our background too, we're not raised to talk and speak up in front of the class. When I immigrated, my English was like sounds so rough that I was afraid to speak. I stopped speaking. I grew a thyroid goiter because I was so afraid to talk. And you were
I was raised not to talk back. That's what it's called.
Right? So it's not like, so when someone has something important to say, we tend to listen and not be like jumping on to like, well, this and jumping to conclusions. So it was harder. And then even when we wanted to say anything, we didn't get picked. That's why I made that post about. I felt like we were on a sports team, you know, like pick me, pick me. Oh,
Yeah, that's the thing that I was getting frustrated about, because I felt like they gave a lot of other families sort of a range to see,
Hmm.
the highs and the lows. But I felt like the snippet for you was so short, and it really didn't get to show more of the beautiful aspects of your
Hmm.
family and some of the things that you were kind of pushing through. I mean, even the fact that Sky passed a lot of those tests and he kind of just
Hmm.
like swept that under the rug,
Yeah.
like he passed with flying
He,
colors. Like,
oh yeah.
isn't that supposed to be an indication that you did the challenge right? And
Yeah,
so,
and we listened to him.
exactly. And so, looking back at the episodes, how accurately, if you had to grade the representation of your family on a scale from, F to A, how would you rate that portrayal? And what would you say is like the major difference between how your parenting style was portrayed on the show versus how it actually is at home?
It's like a C, a D. There are moments
Yeah,
where it's a
CD.
C and there's a D. There's actually one moment that's an F when they acting like, oh, America, take that knife away. Take that. What do you mean, take that knife away? He's gonna learn how to use the knife. That's the knife that was there, and kept correcting was age appropriate. Like, honey, be careful. But we also want to let him try. Yeah, he went like that to the lettuce, but he did not cut nobody, and it was safe. We're right there. He wasn't gonna cut me. All the social media, like, oh my god, 6-year-old watching Chucky movies. Oh my god, I'm so worried. Oh my god, call the ambulance. I'm like, calm down, people. Calm down. We're right there. And I'm a comedian. I have a joke. He's Chuck. I have a joke about Chucky. I don't need to show him movies. He just watched me do my little joke about him being a terrorist. Oh man, because all kids can be terrorists sometimes, right? And he doesn't even mind that because he knows he's such a great boy. He's like, yeah, I'm a terrorist. So he was trying to make people laugh. I showed him the episode yesterday. I was like, honey, you see how they're cutting you, make you look like you just, And then he was like, but did they laugh? Was it fun? And he was just, but yes, there's a thin line between when it's something dangerous, having fun, and like be cautious. And I think we were doing that. And then he cut the stuff with flying colors. He learned to put his finger there and not cut his fingers off. And we said that too. You showed him how they cut that off. They cut that teaching moment where you take the knife from him?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. And everyone's like, take the knife away. And then even the child led parent, she's like, take the knife if it was her child. They cut her off saying that. She told me. So, and I remember that too. But it's just like we took the knife from him many times actually. But of course they don't want to show that because that's not exciting.
No, it's not.
And he only said Chucky, like Chucky, like, and then cutting to your bones part, man, that's a comedian. I was like, nice punchline, honey. I was like, I did never heard you say that before. That was a hard carrot. But okay, let's go from the first challenge. That was what was the first challenge? Do you remember? I remember rock climbing and there was something.
There was like the high diving. I don't know if
No, we didn't do that one.
Yeah.
For us, the first one they show was
Was it the rock climbing?
that was the second. It was the first episode though. They showed two of them. It was something like that's when the helicopter kept saying, you're not listening, you passed it, aggressively ignoring him, and they kept showing that even in the next episode.
So the direction one, the car driving,
Oh yeah,
or was it the home?
yes, that was the backseat driver and the rock climbing. The backseat driver, yeah, and that was like they kept cutting back to Chuck, just like cold stone dad, just don't care. No, you know what happened at the end of the thing? He made it fun. You showed him what?
Yeah, I made it fun. I gave him because I know how to read the streets, and I told him like, okay, this is the odd number, even number addresses, and then I show him this is the number where you think it is, and he kind of figured it out, but they didn't show that.
Yeah, and they were having fun, and he was smiling, and then we got there,
And yeah, it's just like even the film guy, the guy that was filming, oh, this is funny stuff. This is good. I'm like, oh, this is good. Okay, it's good material. But the one who edited didn't think that was funny, I guess.
Well, they want to show we get voted off, right? So they gotta show us just the worst. So that was an F. yes, that was an F portrayal of my husband, and I was like livid. He doesn't care. He knows what happens, but I'm emotional. I'm like, I have to stand up for him and to make him look like he didn't even listen or care. And I guess from that little part could show like the helicopter kept saying, but it would just felt like such a jab, you know, because sometimes they talk, they'd be like, well, maybe you could listen more. Maybe I noticed. Even when I frame my comments to the intensive when I started crying about the thing, and that was also a different scenario that was triggered, but it all looked the way like so drama, right? And I even said like maybe just let go a little bit. I don't be like you're doing this to her, you're that's how it felt to me. I was like, damn, you were saying I'm passively aggressively not listening to him. I don't need to be passively aggressive. I could just be very aggressively, I don't want to talk to you, Sky. Like, it's like, what do you think we are? Because we're Asians, we're passive aggressive. Like, I don't need to do that with my 6-year-old. We are listening. So that was tough, and we just sat there like we were just so shocked and humiliated. We were like, that just felt so horrible, and he didn't know what to say, and your face was a little red, so embarrassing. And then we didn't know any of them yet, and it was like, you're not listening, you're passive aggressive, you're bribing him. I'm like, what? And then I tried to elaborate, dude, negotiation doesn't mean negotiate 24/7. Did they even show that? I'm like, there are rules. We're not negotiating if he goes to bed, goes to school. Maybe we negotiate, you want to do math first or English? They didn't? They didn't. I even submitted footage later of us negotiating because there was not enough, they didn't even know how to show the, filming the thing. Yeah. And we just did our best how to show, because it's a discussion, right? It's like, you want to do this? Okay, honey, you can, how about you do the math first? Because you, okay, fine. I want to do math because I'm really good at it. It's exciting. And then I'll come back to the English because it's like, it's fine. I let him do that, right? It all get done, right? That's okay to negotiate that. Why force him like, no, I think you need to do English and that's it. And then math later because you're good at it. Like this. So that's just part of how I work while I homeschool him now. But it's not like, oh, let's negotiate. No school today, mom. No, and I don't think the parents, they got it. It's like they're saying that, oh, it's hard negotiating with teenagers. Oh, when you have 2 siblings, it's even easier if you set the foundation because the other one already know. It's like, wait a minute, mom and dad, you can negotiate this. This is the rules and boundaries where there's negotiation allowed. This no. We're still like stern. There are moments where we're like, this is what you gotta do, non-negotiable, and we said that over and over. Even on the stage, I mentioned it a few times. They didn't show it. Did you remember? I don't even.
They didn't show it.
And then behind the scenes, I'm like, not every day, everything. That's exhausting. I mean, look at our face. We're not looking like 100 years old. Okay, we're not gonna like just. And they just want to show like, negotiating is impossible. Why would you negotiate with a 6-year-old? That's the time to show him that you can use your mind critically to think for yourself at a young age. And my son is very soulful. He's got a big spirit. So he actually knows. And I'm a comedian now. I write and I talk a lot, use my words. So he observes me and, we're very close and connected. So he definitely knows how to say no, how to talk to people if something doesn't work right. That's why I like negotiation, because it makes him use his mind and stand up for himself at a young age. And with Asian hate now, he got bullied at school. Those kids don't want to play with him when he was in public school. I go watch him observe. He's just running after the kids. Hey guys, wait for me, play with me. They just run away from him. And he's the only Asian kid. And then they come up to me afterwards like, he tried to kick me. He tried to hit me. And I'm like, no, he didn't. Like, I'm just like, and then the teachers do nothing about it. And he's a gentle kid. He doesn't snitch on kids, right? He doesn't have a sibling. He doesn't go like, hey, they hit me. He doesn't remember. He just think it's play fighting. But then he gets in trouble. So I really have to instill in him, we do, that to learn to stand up and speak. And that's part of negotiating, right? You're an expert negotiator. He does kitchen cabinet sales. Like, he's a designer, so you negotiate all day long.
You negotiate, and when you negotiate with your child, it gives them that creativity where he can articulate how to approach things in the future too, and to that situation. once you negotiate with him, he's like, okay, is this a good, bad, yes, no, and he'll eventually develop a critical thinking mind early. Because was that kids don't really start thinking until they're what's that age?
I think 3 or 4 they already have their
No,
personality.
but like critical thinking.
Oh,
They critical. You don't. I think 14 or 13 or something like that's the age. But I want him to, and he starts to critical thinking now. You can see it in him, and not we don't negotiate everything. He already knows what is really going to happen, what's not going to happen.
yeah.
He
So
already knows.
when we were filming, he already knows. We talked to him ahead, like we're doing this show. It's a 2 weeks of filming, we thought. So it was 1 week for him, and we were like, honey, there'll be cameras around, and I've done like he's been on commercial stuff, so he knows the camera is there, so he knows like corporation, and we're like, okay, it's gonna be a long day. We negotiate with him ahead of time, it's hot summer day, we're like, afterwards mommy daddy wants yogurt too, so if you want yogurt too, let's really like listen to each other, be in the moment, have fun, but also pay attention what the task and the challenge is, because there's a time limit in a lot of them, so we
Yes.
can accomplish and do this together. So there's not that much negotiation already, right? Because he already like, okay, there's a challenge, we gotta do this, and then we don't get it, we don't know what it is until like right there.
See, even negotiating, you need to articulate the questionnaire into how to even just to conversate to my child. They cut everything off so much where there's no negotiation at all. There's no even time for conversation. If you
Yeah.
notice.
Yeah,
What-
one of my biggest criticisms of that show, my wife and I felt that not all of the challenges, and when I say not all, pretty much a huge chunk of it, they just weren't fair because some families had 3 kids, other families had older kids, and I think that those different factors play a much more significant role than I think the show was letting on, and I think that should have been made a huge factor in the decision-making process, or they should have just, had families that had sort of identical situations, like one
Yes.
child, same age range, at least, so that way you can actually have a fair. I mean, this was positioned as a competition show, and so it's almost like some kids just got a completely different challenge. And so when it comes to the tests themselves, how do you like? Do you feel like your family got a fair shake? How do you feel about the competition aspect?
Oh, no fair at all. I mean, they were like teenagers and older kids. 6 and 7 is a huge difference too,
6 and 7.
right? And also the thing where the background, with one of the other families where it's if it's high achievement, it's great, but it's also like everything they got to explain a lot of the reasons why they act the way they do, right? So there's like explanation, and people are like, oh, okay. But for us, there was no explanation given for us, even when we talked about how we negotiate. They're just like, you're not negotiating. You're not negotiating. They're just like, right. They're not listening. They're not, because they didn't show it. But for the high achievement family, they kept showing like, I have to do this certain way because of this environment, right? Which big respect to him. I get it. We will never understand. We're not Black, right? But we respect, okay. And we were nodding too, like, yeah, we get it. We're listening. We're empathizing. But how about us? Like, the Asians, why couldn't the show tackle two racism topic at a time when it's so prevalent? It's just COVID. Everybody's thinking the Chinese brought it. And we're Chinese. Our son is Chinese. He's 6. He's living in an environment and going to the public school where it's mostly different kids, right? Not Asians, and he's getting like singled out. So, I mean, and we talked about it with the other Asian families too, the intensive and the other, but yeah, they certainly didn't give us a chance to talk about it, or when we did, they didn't put that in. And that's very disappointing. I mean, I'm just mad at this point. And yeah, I mean, even the challenge, the backseat, the other families that have the other 2 families, right? They have siblings, they have older kids. They can read at least. My kid is like 6 is huge difference. He is small number. I'm so nearsighted. He's driving, and we're like, there's traffic everywhere. We know there's a car following us, and we're like, what? And then he still made it fun though. He still made it fun. My son didn't go crazy, buck wild. They didn't show that part where we made it fun, and he was still like, okay, Dad, make a left, make a right, participating at least, right? It was just all no, you're not negotiating. You're not listening. You're horrible, right? And then the rock climbing, they didn't give us a harness. We didn't even when we went in there.
You didn't notice
And
that?
then
I saw that. I was like, he like did that free solo. Like, come on.
And he's so brave. And of course, we made sure it was safe. Moment we walked in, it was just him. There was no one.
Yeah, there's no. The store just opened up. There wasn't even harness hanging around. So we're thinking, okay, maybe this is harness free. And then they're like, oh yeah, if you fall, just fall backwards, you're fine.
Well, this lady
then we're
really
like-
taught him how to fall back safely. He did it like 10 times. The lady showed him. So we made sure it was safe. It was soft. And it wasn't as high as the other family one. So we're like, okay. And I've rock climbed him with him at Kids Space Museum. So, I mean, way half the height. So I was like, okay, honey, you can try. And, if it gets too scary, I'm not going to push him to. And then the funny thing is you actually, it was dramatic because I thought he couldn't do it. He got scared every time.
Yeah, every time he gave up like at least 5-6 times.
And then
everyone got, kind of quiet.
he didn't give up. He just came down to see if he wanted to try again. And then you finally.
And then I went up there and I just gave him a little example. Like,
He was
this is where you put your feet in and you kind of push it just to show him how to do it, and then he jumped on it and then he just picked it up from there.
Yeah, once he showed it, and they didn't even show that, the beauty of that's negotiation too. Instead of saying yes, no, Dad physically showed him it's possible. And he got, Dad can do it, I'm gonna do it. And bam, like it was so fast. We were there for a long time, but they couldn't show that. And that could be a great negotiation moment where there was silence. There was just, because sometimes negotiating, it's a body language. You don't need words. They didn't show any of that. I was just sitting there like, give you the force, right? And we're just like, let him figure it out. That's part of negotiating, letting him think, like helping him put his leg here, and then he wants to fall back. Okay, that's a negotiation, right? He's like, I'm not ready right now. Let me come down. Okay, you don't have to. You take your time, and then go back up. And then, I don't know, I'm scared. Oh, Dad, let Dad show you. And then that's a whole negotiation. That's so beautiful. And they just focused on another family being, whatever that drama was like, push him. And then he did it. Right. But our son, 6-year-old, he did that. And it was like one of his best challenge. And we were so proud. And he did it. And he chose to do it. Not because he was going to disappoint any of us, because he wasn't. Right. And that was just brushed over. Oh, so you guys tend to tell him to breathe, huh? That's what she said, the host. I'm like, yeah, and then that's it. Nobody said anything nice. Nobody's like, oh, wow, you guys really give him the chance and time. No. Oh, wow, you guys are listening. No, none of that, right? It's just all negative and brushed over, because that was so beautiful that he did that. And he was so proud of himself that he chose to do it.
Yeah.
And that's the negotiation. Oh, my God. Thank you for letting us talk about it, because I never even got to talk about it this way. That the whole body language, the whole silence, the faith part of just having to believe in him and being patient with him, that was part of the negotiation. And they couldn't show that because the show is talk. And that moment when he breathed, that we practice with him all the time, even at school, because sometimes people just hit him or punch him, and then he's just like, oh, and then he forgets, he don't tell his teachers, and then I'm like, just breathe. If you want to fight back, just breathe. And he did that. It was so pretty. And it was just like, oh, okay. Nobody like said anything nice. Like, really? They're just like, oh, you make him breathe. Okay.
Yeah, and that's really unfortunate because, like you said earlier, negotiation can sometimes be a more nuanced or a more long-term process where the negotiation isn't just, let's have a negotiation, we're going to discuss it within 10 seconds and then the decision is made. But like you said, it can be as grand as something that gets stretched out, trying to get him to negotiate with something that's more of a big decision versus, like you said, it could be as nuanced as body language. And so I kind of want to dive a little bit deeper and talk about your parenting style. Like, I want to actually rewind the clock and talk about your parents. What were your parents like growing up, and what was that turning point in your lives that made you realize, you know what, I don't want to parent Sky like that?
Yeah. Well, I want to start off by saying that we talked about that a lot on the show, and all was shown was that I had a tiger mom and he got beat sometimes. So thank you for giving us the opportunity. To, there was no deep dive for us, like really got into how we met and all that. Like with the even with the helicopter family, they were showing how they were living in a car, right? They mentioned all that, so you get the sense why they were helicopter. And I love those kids; they're beautiful. I respect them, you know. And I had nothing even bad to say. Remember when I even talked about them, I was like, oh, they did a great job, right? And okay, so back to us. Do you want to go first?
No,
I
go
tend
ahead.
to talk a lot.
Go ahead, continue.
So with my upbringing, my parents very strict, only girl. I have two brothers. I played the piano. I was very like, because I saw the way my mom had to train my brother. First of all, my older brother, just sit there and force him to study and go. He was very spirited, kind of like Sky, like laugh, like loud, loves to draw. And my mom was just very strict because that's all she knew back then, right? Like her mom was very mean to her. She told me, like, just she was the oldest sister with five other brothers sisters, like and not really emotionally connected, emotional empathy, that way. So she was just doing the best, where she's like, this is my first child. She was only 21. She was really strict with him, and he became really, really rebellious, and they had to work, so he was always with the grandma, and grandma smoked, and and he just learned those other things. And my mom and dad try to keep us very sheltered in Hong Kong. My dad came from nothing. Parents died really young, so he was like in a band, and he worked his way to building his company. So when we immigrated to Seattle, it was really lonely. My dad kept going back to Hong Kong. My mom suddenly didn't have a housekeeper anymore, nanny. So she was really stressed. So she was just like, Kiki, you gotta learn how to cook. You gotta chop better. Chop the knife. Are you? She gets so mad because she's so lonely. My dad's flying, nobody helping. We moved to the boonies in Seattle. There were no other Chinese families. She had no more friends. She's all alone with the two kids because my older brother ran away since he was 15, 16, 17. Always having problems. Like my dad, I remember we're driving, like yelling at my brother because he's skipping school now. And they just like they didn't build that time with him where they were working so much, right? So my older brother's always like with my grandma, so there was no that love connection. But then they want the face too. It's the Hong Kong Chinese culture, right? Like you're supposed to go to school and do well. And we went to the best public school. It was Catholic, all girls, all guys, the number one schools. Okay. And so all the friends are doing well, and my brother is just want to go play, skip school. So I remember my dad's like, get out of the car, and then he would just leave in the middle of like driving down the highway. So it's like very traumatic. All that came into play with how I treat Sky, because my older brother he's in China now. He's on his own, but that really stained him, like from all that fighting, yelling. And I remember one time my dad's like, get out of this house, and then he left and got in the elevator, and my mom was just like, don't leave. And it was just really, those stay with me. So I remember and told myself, no matter what I do, I'm going to really connect with Sky, and even with my work, no matter what. That's why I do comedy at night. During the day, I'm even homeschool him now because public school didn't work out. So I want to make sure that we are connected. We're talking, listening. That's why I negotiate and give him choices, because I want him to think for himself. I got in so much trouble because I was always afraid to speak up, because I saw the way my brother was, right? So the middle child, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do what is need to be done. I'll be the good kid. I'll be the peaceful kid. And then the younger brother is like the favorite, which I love too. He's my favorite, and so it's always like, Kiki, you gotta cook and do help out. So I cook all the time. I help, and then if I'm relaxed, it's, you're lazy, you're not doing enough. So all that is like a lot of you could say toxic, right? Like the way I was spoken to a lot. But they just think it's love and discipline. But for me, it was really, really just like, low self-esteem. I didn't know how to stand up for myself. I didn't speak perfect English. I had to take a lot of speech classes to even speak like this way. And I just lied and hide from my parents a lot. I ran away with him when I was 19. I know that's very 18 is bye bye, but for Chinese, I didn't talk to my parents for a couple of years. They didn't like him at all. They didn't approve of our relationship. So because he was my brother's best friend. like the older one. So that's how we all met. So it's a whole crazy love story. So, you know, with Sky, from my perspective, I'm just like, I'm going to tell him, tell me the truth, honey. It's okay. He's like, will I get in trouble? I'm like, no, I want you to tell me the truth. And that's the relationship I want to build from the start. And I don't care what my parents say, like, you gotta be more strict and discipline strict. Just I am disciplining him to teach him. I'm like, well, I'm gonna discipline you now. You have to go think about what you did. We're doing that, you know, instead of timeout, it's like we disciplining you, reflect what just happened, the conversation, what you did, and come back and tell me. That's a negotiation. Come back, tell me like what happened, why were you acting that way, and how we can do better next time. And then he'll come back, he'll be like, yeah, I should have listened to you more, mom. I should have like did what you said right away so I can finish my work, then I can play. And he'll be like, I'm sorry, next time I'll listen better. See, it's so, instead of like we're getting beat with the bamboo stick, I'm just terrified. I would hide my exam papers from my mom. I hid those because you have to make them sign in Hong Kong. I hid them from like, I don't know, 12 years old till I was 17. I took them out. I'm like, oh my God. I didn't even want to show my mom still. I would forge her signatures. I don't want to live in fear like that. So that's why we're not free, like do whatever, but we have rules, but we also let him
just
speak.
don't want Sky to live in fear.
But tell.
Well, my background, pretty much, my parents came to US when I was 3. So you can see I'm kind of ABC, Americanized-ish. But I have a lot of Asian traditional styles, tradition I kept up with, you know. But most of the time in my life, my family moved here, and my dad was constantly working just to come to a new place and get it going, you know. So all that time I was with my sisters, my grandmother, my mother. So my dad was never around. Just raised by wolves, okay? Women, okay? And it's different. And my mom would never like, oh, you want to sign for basketball? We'll take you there. Oh, you want to go kung fu class? I was like, there's such things. Like, I didn't know that. We're giving it to my son. But when I was raised, we never had such things. It was always just with the family. And maybe they couldn't afford it, or maybe they never thought of it. It's just, you know, whoa,
It's
okay.
just survival.
It's just survival mode, you know? And when you're in survival mode, you can't really like, oh, let's negotiate. Let's talk about this subject. Let's not do this. You can't talk to your child. You gotta do this right now. We gotta go. That's how it was raised, you know? So I was raised up like, you gotta do this and just do it, okay? We'll talk about it later, maybe later. Just do it. So that's how I was taught. And if I even ask a question, that would be considered talking back. So I don't really, you know, so that's why, and then that's where the fear comes, where, okay, I better listen to instructions or I'm going to get in trouble. This and that, you know, I wish I actually learned how Sky is right now, where, you know, you do something wrong, you might get in trouble, but you understand why this happened and this and that. The internal reasons why, you know, I never got that opportunity. So that's why we're raising our child a little differently than our parents, because we want to explain to them. And it takes a longer process, to tell you the truth, to explain to them.
More patience.
To negotiate, to explain detail why you shouldn't be doing this. Why shouldn't you be running off in the street while you should stand next to your parents in the parking lot? You know, always get that to him. He's always doing that. I mean, but it takes time, you know, and we explain to in detail. And still, my parents were like, get your butt over here. I'm going to pinch your ear. Stay right here next to me. And us kids were like, okay, we just listen.
Because we were feared.
We're feared. And then that took us into school, too. In public school, it was fear that controlled us. But we don't want that for our son. We don't want fear to control him. You want what to control him is his critical thinking, where, okay, this is the right thing to do. That's where we want to get our son.
Oh, you should talk more. You see how great he is? He's better than me. The way he speaks. And I'm just like, oh, why can't they just put you talking more? And we talked about all this. Like, we don't want the disconnect. It's all about the connection. Okay, it's great. You can just push them and rules and so strict where they obey you. Come on now. I've been a kid. I remember once they hit 12, 13, sayonara. Okay, they'll leave, they'll lie, they'll They'll do everything. I had to bring my clothes to go to the club, right? They'll try stuff. I tried to smoke and do drugs just to feel good, to escape from the fear that I was living in this prison. All those things I did. I'm not putting on my parents. I did it. I chose it. I take responsibility. But that upbringing kind of like made me want to go buck wild and like try things out just to see how it feels to be free, like my friends, that they can do stuff. You know, maybe I don't even like smoking or doing drugs or trying things. I don't even care. But it looks like dangerous. Maybe they'll make me feel more alive, more like connected to who I want to be. I don't know. I've never had a try to discover, right? To try things like maybe I can try and then see, and then I get in trouble because like I was raised so sheltered too. I'm a little bit gullible, he says. Like I really just believe and see the best in people. And
she's a blonde, okay.
You're horrible. And sometimes I can be dizzy, but that's what I like about myself. Like I'm learning all that with like my own. I wish I could have like be around my parents and talk to them and connect. Like, hey, this is something I want to try, and not like, oh, I'm gonna try drugs. I'll tell them, but like, oh, maybe go out to a party. I never even went to parties or like sleep over anybody's house really, or camping. They were really worried that I get, which is I understand too now that I have a kid, because things can happen. So I get it, but just going back to all that strict stuff, it doesn't mean you're gonna have that true connection. Because when they are older, when they're in their 30s, 50s, are they gonna be like, I need to call my mom every day? Oh, I want to bring her son. I know my son's gonna do that. He tells me, I love you more than you love me. I'm like, huh? What are you talking about, honey? He's like, wake up. He's like, Mom, you know who I love the most in the world? I'm like, who? You. I mean, I'm not making him say these things. It's the connection that is making him say these things out of the blue to me. All that he's like, you know who I want to be Valentine? I'm like, who? You. He's like, who do you think gives me the love and kisses in the world? I'm like, who? He's like, you. I'm like, those are the moments is worth that time, that patience, that negotiator. I'm not saying it's all rainbows and unicorns. It's rough days. He was 6 and 7, but at least we're learning as we go, and we're trying this, and we're combining the method. And sometimes I get into that brain, like my parents, like just
do it.
And
Just
there are
push them,
moments
yeah.
when there's time to call. That's why it's a combo. It's not all negotiating everything. It's really more like connection parenting, right? Like really respectful, gentle, connecting. Sometimes we don't need to be gentle either. Sometimes you need to be firm. Sometimes it's just
Yeah, you guys do.
But we didn't get to show that at all.
No.
And that's a pity.
And so speaking on actually your experiences with growing up in a more strict household, if the purpose of strict parenting is to supposedly guarantee a specific successful outcome for their children, what would you say is the guarantee by investing in this negotiation style? Like,
I guarantee you'll be
letting Sky have more of a say. Like, what do you feel like is the outcome, the ultimate outcome that you're looking for with Sky?
The ultimate outcome, I think,
emotionally whole child, like confident,
yeah,
calm. He knows, unconditionally loved by his parents. They'll be there for him.
Not to live in life with fear.
Yeah, no fear. But respect people, and just the definition of success, is all about money and doctor. And great, I want him to try. He likes science stuff and all that, and I would encourage him do anything that, but at least have the courage to be who he really is. Be true to himself always, even with whatever profession he chooses, and he'll be fearless in choosing what he wants to do and really go for it and try it out. And I feel like I guarantee he's gonna feel loved, and he's gonna be a better human being, more empathetic. He'll show more love to people, and he's so kind and sharing. Like his friend doesn't have a snack, he gives his pirate booty to that guy, and without even, he's like, okay. And then he's like, I don't need to eat. I come home eat. Like just little things like that with the connection, the thinking. How many kids, his friends like, no, you can't have it, which is fine because but for my son, he's just so, I don't know, what's the word?
Spirit, maybe?
Yeah, he's spirit. He's such a, but what's the ultimate for you that you think this way? Because I know sometimes you want to go strict You know, it's because your
Yeah.
upbringing.
Yeah, I'm very picky on myself, and I have very high expectations on myself, and I kind of embedded in him some of the things I want him to be perfect at, but
Yeah, you try to balance it out with the
trying to balance.
negotiating,
Yeah,
with the listening, and then talking. So what do you want the ultimate?
I I want him to be confident and know himself. In the long run, that's mainly it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be himself.
Yeah, be himself in any situation. You know, because especially the Chinese culture, I feel like a lot of us are like trying to break out of a shell, and you just waste like 20 years. Like my youth, I'm just teenage youth. I'm like trying not to be in depression mode, right? And trying to like have fun and like a late bloomer, like trying to catch up on life. And then by the time now I'm in my 40s, I'm like now I finally found what I really love, what I'm doing, and then luckily now we have Sky and we can instill all those things to him. But thanks for asking that question because nobody asked us that on the show or even talked about it.
Yeah, I mean that's why I'm really excited to have this conversation because I feel like there's so much backstory that goes into even you know you coming to this conclusion of wanting to raise Sky this way, and that's why I was really excited to hear your your upbringing because it makes sense. It makes sense how you arrived to this. And zooming out a little bit, if we talk about the future, right? If we
Mhm.
Based on how the direction that this country is headed, uh,
Mhm.
the future that we might
Maybe.
see, what kind of tools do you feel like you want to specifically pass down on Sky for him to thrive and have a successful or a happy or a meaningful adult life?
What kind of tools? I want him to be able to stand up for himself, right? Especially with the climate, like in a respectful, firm way that I never knew how to do. Uh, and that did you feel like you were able to do that most of your life? Like
Express myself?
yeah,
No, never.
expressing
No.
yourself. I really want to give him the tool. I think he already is expressing
Oh yeah,
himself very
he's
well
very
already.
expressive already.
Yeah, and I feel like what other tools? Can you elaborate more? Like,
Oh, I mean, like how some parents they might be super focused on making sure that their kid attains the most amount of wealth, or making sure that
oh,
this kid is, they're very strict on their diet, or they believe that
oh,
they need to live a particular lifestyle, become a doctor, become
hmm,
join this particular thing.
oh.
Because I know that you don't
Yeah,
have
we
that
don't have
style.
that at all because I'm a comedian and I feel like I'm in the arts, but he doesn't have to be in the arts. Like he's interested in engineering, science, chef because dad's a great cook. Go ahead. I feel like for him, whatever he choose his path with passion, with love and respect, he will go far. He will be successful. I have that faith. I already know. Like for us, the past generation is like, yeah, Asians, Chinese do this so you can get there, or else you might. But I feel like this world is with the social media generation, even like you can. There's so many creative ways to make money. Even young kids are writing books and publishing. Like sky is not the limit, right? So I want to instill that in him. Like, don't think just in this box. Think outside. Like think big, like dream big, and like impress me, things that I don't even know. Tell me. I love it when he gives me ideas. He even gives me punchlines. It's so funny. And he'll be like, hey, I got this idea. What do you think? And we see, remember during that one challenge where we were opposites day and they were like, oh, the kids are more like the equal. I'm like, it's not about being equal, like we're best friends. I'm his mom, right? We're his parents. But it's like asking him, hey, what's your idea for today? Today is family day. Why can't family day Sky have a say? He's part of the family. That doesn't make him an equal from now on. He's going to boss us around because he
No.
has that respect. Okay. And it's the problem when when family knows that their kids might not respect them or they don't have the faith in their kids to respect them, aside from the spanking or being so strict in rules and being like, I'm the parent, I'm so control. That's all fear too, right? There's just so much fear, and we're like, no, we're gonna try this love, right? We're gonna be like, we know you respect us, we respect you. So we want to give you, hey, what do you want to do today? I want to go to the park. I want to go with Dave and Buster, play a game. Right. And then I want to eat boba, or I want to eat, hot pot. He loves hot pot. And be like, okay, why not? We haven't done this in a while. Right. Yeah, let's all have fun. And then he feels good, like, wow, my ideas matter. What I think matters to my parents. I can trust myself that I have good ideas. I make good decisions. Whereas it was hard for us to trust ourselves, because it was like, oh, parents tell us what to do. So now I gotta make a decision around these friends who are pressuring me to, take cocaine or drink. I'm like, no. But then I'm like, like, huh. You know what I mean?
No, so, exactly. And I like it because, again, it instills the confidence and choice, the confidence in being able to make those decisions on your own, and to feel like when I do have something to contribute, that it's respected by the family. And speaking on the subject of negotiation, how would you evaluate Sky's negotiation skills? Like, is he convincing? Has he gotten better over the years? Like, what are his go-to tactics and ways of like convincing you?
Oh, thanks for asking. These are great questions. Oh man.
Well, since he got older, his vocabulary got better.
Yeah.
And he does negotiate. If he doesn't get something his way, he will try to pull, not pull a fast one, but he'll think of something very creative.
Like give an example. I remember he said, he'll be like, oh, mommy, let's have this boba today, because we haven't had this all week, and it's so good and yummy. And after that, we're happy and we can share. You can share with me, right? And then we'll go to the gym and we'll exercise tomorrow. Like, he's just so creative and funny, and I'm like, maybe, okay, not a bad idea. And it's not like negotiating, about some serious thing, so it's fine. Yeah. And I enjoy hearing him talk about it. And like, I'm like, wow, you're so funny and smart. And I'm like, wow, you're charming.
It takes a creative brain to be negotiating something.
He's so creative in his negotiation. That's why I just hope for him, whatever he does, use passion, I want him to find his passion early, because mine was like, I wanted to sing, I wanted to be an actress, but I had autoimmune disease. And that's partly because of all the fear and all the anxiety. We went to the happiest place on earth, Disneyland. And we went on the Splash Mountain, and then boom, my face went really pale. I'm afraid of heights. And after that, my face turned into like orange, like a carrot, a week later. And then a week later, bam, wheeling me in with oxygen tank. Thought I had ulcer, thought I had leukemia. It was autoimmune hemolytic anemia. I had 9 packs of blood transfusion. I had a third of count of blood left. Had a big old thyroid goiter on my neck, hypothyroid. It looked so horrible. It looked like a man. And my mom was just like horrified. They're like, your blood drops again, you get sick and die. And that's where I got my 1-hour comedy special, Sick and Die. It's all the stuff that my mom, my dad used to, they were so worried. They loved me so much. Only daughter, like suddenly the doctors didn't know why I got sick. So I didn't even know. So I was just like, maybe I didn't eat enough rice. So that became like a eating disorder issue. After that, I struggled with that so long. And that's all come from the part of low self-love, didn't know myself. And then all the anxiety and then the stress, it kind of just triggered it. Like, how powerful are our minds or our body, right? Like, literally, it's the anemia is triggered by my antibodies just attacking my blood cells like they're virus. And no, the doctors didn't know why. Like 10 doctors like, this never happened. This is so, they gave me steroids to stabilize me. So that's big part of reason why too, that I nursed my son for almost 2 years, because I had a water birth. Like, I'm very alternative, new age, like because I don't believe. My mom's like, oh, water, the wind, bad for cold, can drown the baby. You're weak, you can't nurse. You homeless shelter for breasts. So it should just be more cautious. Your health. I don't believe in that. I healed myself I don't take any medicine, drugs. I'm healthy. Easy to get fatigue still, because just that's how it is, right? But I don't even have to take hormones. I heal myself. It's the power of the mind, and I instill that in Sky. And that's part of that breathing thing, the spirit, the calmness, the body, spirit, mind connection. So I just hope for him, whatever he does, just use his power and believe in himself. And that's part of the negotiation, to learn to use your mind and your spirit and your body to, like, wow, I can accomplish things that I don't think I don't think I can, or my parents didn't tell me to, right? I want him to feel like, oh, Elon Musk, right? Like, oh,
Think outside the box.
why not
You know?
try?
Yeah.
Why not? Why not me?
Be
So what?
creative.
I'm Asian. I'm in America. Why not? Why not me? He said something like, maybe I could be president. I was like, oh, maybe you could, honey. You could. Why
He's
not?
a
You
work
could.
citizen, technically.
He is
Yeah.
a citizen.
I love
I don't know.
that.
He can have first Asian person. I'm just, but he did mention that. But for him to even say that's a possibility, that's wonderful. You know, I want him to have a free mind that he can help people, and it's also about service. The negotiating thing we negotiate, we I want him to learn the act of service to giving, which they didn't show a lot. It's like negotiating, so you well just do whatever, like negotiate all day what he wants. No, he still achieve things, right? He still take classes and basketball. He does kung fu. He draw. We still try to challenge him, but also at the same time there's a balance to it, right? It's not, if you don't do it, we'll be so disappointed or will be like upset with you. If he really just like, I played piano for 10 years and I had to convince my parents for a long time that I wasn't, I didn't think that was the thing I wanted to keep doing, you know. But if that happened to Sky, okay, I'll still try to encourage him to do it, but it wouldn't be, well, the main reason for that was also my parents always like, you gotta play 3 hours piano before you do anything else. It's then it became not fun anymore, right? So even with those activities, we negotiate with him within that, like, yeah, do the basketball. This is the time. This is the time you draw. But we don't make it like, if you don't do that, you don't get to do anything else because you're gonna be an NBA superstar, right? That's too much, right? That's too pressure.
So for the strict parents that are out there that saw the show or might be listening to this, who might be curious about this negotiating style of parenting, what advice would you give them to sort of like ease them into this?
Well, I think, well, this is, I mean, the more we negotiate, we found out that it evolved into something that became greater than we thought. The result is that we see our son talk with us conversationally about subjects and and try to negotiate something, or just a communication line, you know. And that takes a certain respect and certain type of connection with the parent.
So how
And
would you ease them into it? I think they could just start trying, like sit them down and be like, hey, honey, we really love you. We want to you know, well, let's practice this new skill, communication, where we negotiate things. That these are the boundaries, okay? These are certain things you can negotiate, like the homework time. If there's subject that you're very excited, you want to finish this project right away. Yeah, but we can negotiate. You do that first and do the other stuff later, but we'll still finish, you know, all the homework in that amount of time. And also negotiate, maybe how about like a family day, if it's like a really strict young family, like how about you tell us what would you guys like to do today, and schedule out like, oh, certain, if you have multiple kids, certain times, like this is her turn first, okay, and then you guys, that's also a negotiation, right, with the multiple kids. But I mean, once they get older, if you, I don't know, because I don't have a teenager yet, but I would think even teenagers, if my parents suddenly would have come to me and said, Kiki, we think that we've been too strict on you and we're just too much rules. We need to listen to you more. We love to hear how you feel and what you're thinking, and how we can help you become more confident, or feel like you can connect and be more you know, close to us, right? Like, because it's all about love, connection, right? um and what would you like us to do? Ask the kids questions first. I feel like if they're older, like, well, how do you feel about how our communication is, like what is bothering you, what is working, right? And then you go from there, and then they'll be like, oh, I would really love it if you didn't nag me to keep, you know, doing my homework every day, because you just trust me that I would do it. So maybe that opens the communication. So then it's like, well, okay, but I see you like playing video games right away instead of finishing your homework, and I don't want to nag you, but I feel like if I don't, then you would. But that's also like a thin line between letting them fail, right? Letting them, okay, you don't do your homework. Just okay. Then letting them the feeling of, oh man, you know, okay, I don't like that feeling. I didn't finish my homework really. Like now I gotta catch up. It's very stressful. And my parents are not even yelling at me or nagging me. Okay, that's different. Oh, that's nice of them. They're trusting me. Oh, they trust that I'll do the right thing. Okay, I'm old enough. I should do the right thing. And it does feel good doing the homework. Yeah, and then I can still play later. And then I won't be stressed. Oh, okay. Oh my, I can make good life skill decisions. Oh wow, thank you, mom and dad, for trusting me and respecting me that I can and giving me the opportunity to fail and do it. That's part of the negotiation. I try to remind myself, don't always swoop in and help him. Like he doesn't know how. I don't know how. Sky, why don't you figure it out? You can figure it. And then instead of just good job, I'm like, Roy was so good about it. He loves showing me his drawings. I'm like, oh, that's nice. But then I stop. I'm like, what do you think, Sky? Who cares what mommy thinks? What do you like about? Oh, I like the colors. I like how I drew this. Just let them start talking. They have so much to say if you let them talk. I feel like sometimes this for us, I'm gonna speak for all strict parents, but for our strict parents, it was like, oh, you move your butt. I know what you're thinking, what you're gonna do. And it's like, it's funny, but it's like, just no autonomy. It's just, oh, mom's gonna know. Oh, nothing I do can surprise her. Nothing I do is, interesting or great. She already knows, I'm gonna pull a fast one. Like, and kids do that. That's kids. Kids are all gonna pull a fast one just to see. They want to push the limits and boundaries, but you have to set it. And then that's all working together. And you're not gonna win every time. Sometimes it's like, oh, gotta put this boundary back really more non-negotiable. That's how you figure it out, try and error. But that's where it comes in the time and the patience. Man, we lose our patience too, We're like, damn, sometimes we're like, but he's getting better and we're learning. And the point is keep the connection. I always want him to be able to come talk to us, right? And tell us how we feel and hug, like real hug, not like, okay, you're trying to kiss. I remember my mom would try to bite me or kiss me, and I'd just be like, don't touch me, mom. I don't want him to feel that way. That's all the underlining stuff, that gunk that wasn't addressed, and now you don't feel connection. So who's this person touching me? I don't remember you giving birth to me, even though you did, right? And there's like disrespect because no respect was given, though, right? I understand strict parents like, I gave birth to you, you respect. Yeah, I get it, but how about give them some respect too? 6-year-olds, 4-year-olds, they come in the world pure. They have a light. They knowing too, right? Just from me healing myself, I know that spiritual part that they know we can learn. We are learning from him. He teaches us, oh man, I need to be more patient, right? I need to just, he's like, mom, don't stress out, honey. Don't stress. I know you get stressed when you do your show. You have a lot going on. How empathetic is he to say that to me? And it's not saying like, I'm just letting him know like the adult worries, right? I mean, this is the real life, right? It's just 3 of us. And I'm homeschooling him and doing comedy at night. Like it's a lot of work, right? And he gets it. And for him to say back to me like, mom, just take it easy, And then he stepped on my back. He's so sweet. He's like, let me help you. I help you. I don't have, it's so nice. It's like, oh, let me give you love. Let me kiss you. You're the best comedian. I mean, I didn't ask him to do it. And he just like wants to watch my set and help me. And that just shows like that connection. Like I respect him, he respect me. And how nice. I wish I had that opportunity with my mom and my dad. My dad's not around anymore, I wish I had that opportunity. I just remember sitting with my dad. We were in Singapore and we eat cheesecake. He's reading his newspaper. I'm sitting there. And that was it. We kind of small talk, not really, but I was just even so happy just to sit there with him and eat cheesecake. So now every time I eat cheesecake, I think of him. But we never have like that conversation. Like he tells me work, and I'm sure there was a lot of things going on in his mind, but I wish I knew so I could be a better kid for him too, right? Like more empathetic and understanding. But I never knew. They just blocked all that off. So even teenager, I was just like, they don't respect me, they don't trust me, right? I'm just a kid. I'm nothing. That's not good because you want to feel empowered, right? Did you feel empowered?
No.
No.
Well,
Yeah, share what you want to, because this is your opportunity. I'll let you talk.
No, you were doing a good job.
But yeah, I mean, for strict parents, you know, anything else?
My parents were pretty strict. Coming from, I have two sisters, one younger, one smaller, and I was right in the middle. One older, sorry, older, small, younger one, and I was in the middle. So, and my dad was barely around. So, my mom, as the mom she is, she'll be very strict on. Oh, you know, we're like we're raising these two girls, and Chuck, you're gonna be in this get together. That's similar lifestyle because they have no time to even cater me as a guy. Okay, just I wasn't like wearing girls' clothes. I'm trying to say that, but I'm saying that what I'm trying to say is that they didn't. I didn't fully get
The boy interaction.
the boy interaction or the tree. So then I was always seeking for like friends. I was seeking for a brother, and
that got you in a lot of trouble.
I got me in a lot of trouble in high school, and then in a way it's good too because I met her brother, and then that's how we hooked up. So I mean, there is some good and there bad, but you know, I would say it actually did change my life. You know, I wish I approached life different, because you know, I wish Sky will have that fearless, not like, oh, I'm gonna jump off the bridge, I'm fearless. That not that type of fearless, you know, but more like a dream can be approached
can achieve.
Or it can be
something
achieved,
he wants to do, something he needs to say. There's a point he don't agree, he'll make it.
Yeah.
So for the strict parents, what would you tell them? Like for boys and girls is different. How would you negotiate with a boy? Maybe you can tell the strict parents how to do it. And still maintain that respect that I'm your father and you're the son and I'm teaching you and I'm talking to you, I'm connecting.
Well, I know that for Sky, if you're trying to negotiate with him on anything, I guess negotiate where you put yourself into it, and you'll be like, oh, this is going to be a challenge where who gets there first, and he'll definitely be into it for sure, 100%. Okay, for boys, okay.
So maybe the strict parents can do that with the boys. So give an example, like how you
he'll be like, oh, Dad, I'm gonna run over there to that house and visit my friend, and of course, there might be a reason why I wouldn't want him to go over, or I don't want him to go alone. So I'll throw myself in there with him, like, okay, let's negotiate, go get to the house, and let's see who gets there first or something, you know. And then he'll be like, okay, so I can watch him, which I can also go with him to the house, I guess, you know. I would throw myself into the particular request that he wanted for this negotiation, and then where he feel more connected with me, where I can share experience with him, and yet he can figure, oh, I want to one up my father. That'll be fun. That's what they want to do all the time. So that's that I would throw that.
Instead of saying no, you can't go, or go alone, and then you're kind of like worried. Yeah, that's great. I didn't know that's your reason.
Love that. I love that. Just you know, I love hearing your perspective on, you know, how you parent Sky, how, you know, the connection that you've had with your family, and how that's really, you know, influenced this outlook. And I hope that more parents, especially a lot of Asian families, can learn from you all, and to you know, take some skills that they can bring onto their family. But again, Kiki, Chuck, it's honestly been an honor to have you on the show, to be able to hear your story. You're always welcome back. Before we say goodbye, what are you all working on these days, and where can we find and support you?
I'm doing my 1 hour comedy special. Well, actually, it's the last night, but it's called Don't Get Sick and Die. I'm going to be touring with it. So they can follow me at Kiki Funny Mama, Kiki Funny Mama. And then I have, I started this Asian comedian platform called Crazy Woke Asians 2018. Because when I started, I always see comedians, they're Asians, they're very, very funny, but I never get to be on a show with them. So I started it, and then we sold out, and we've been all over the news, all over the country. So we're going to be having shows in March and April, actually at the Comedy Store, the world famous comedy store, where Dave Chappelle did his one of his special in the one of the rooms in April. Yeah, and then I'm working on the homeschooling Sky. Yeah, and that's at Crazy Vocations. Oh, at Super Ing Family. And we just post about like we're cooking. Sky likes to dance and sing, and then we just funny things. Yeah. How about you, honey?
Well, what I'm working on, well, foremost, I'm a designer. I design mainly kitchens, but I've been dabbling with a lot of very unique designs, coffee tables, things like that for fun, you know. And half my life is to make sure that the comedy goes out. Everyone can see Kiki's comedy, and Sky support him as well.
Yeah, and then he cooks. So I've been filming him like cooking stuff with the wok. He can make all kinds of.
So yeah.
Oh, what can you make?
I made some
pan fried noodle last night. I came home pan fried noodle with pork ribs and chicken, and then he made me soup, like a pork rib soup, because
it's a winter melon
melon soup. He makes steamed whole tilapia. Man, you should come over. Bring your wife. And then he makes oyster shooters. I'm like, I'm lucky. Yeah. Awesome. Just Super Ing family.
Well, I'll definitely drop the links over there so everyone can follow your family, follow the stuff that you're doing, cooking up. Again, thank you all so much, everyone. Good night.
Oh, thank you.